friends. Welcome back to the Create Your Shape podcast. Today, I have a Create Your Shape superstar on, Megan Crawford, and she really is the example of fine tuning to go from fit to shredded. She was already doing all of the things, training hard. She was familiar with macros. She ate healthy and really getting into tweak and fine tune and implement a strategy to get to the next level. And I mean, if you're watching on the video, you can see her like shredded shoulders and her shredded arms right now. But we'll get into how she created all of that. But first, let's hear a little bit more about just who she is. I mean, from my perspective, the very first like interaction with Megan until now, like she is on top of it. You can just tell that she doesn't do anything casually in terms of like, maybe I'll change my shape, maybe not. She's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get that from it, I'm gonna ask this question, I'm gonna implement it, and then and this doesn't mean everything is absolutely perfect because she'll have obstacles. And when she gets into obstacles, she's like, oh, okay, yeah, of course I have obstacles. Here are my questions on it. Here's what I'm going to try. Let's see if this works next time. And so, even though she's on top of it, she's not stressed. It doesn't seem to me at least, but we'll get into that. She's not stressed about it. She's not overly obsessing. She'll have bad weeks and be like, oh yeah, that happened, that happened. Okay, I see the bigger picture. This makes sense. Let's go. And it's amazing to see that, but just have that personality and that and those characteristics to approach a goal like this and achieve so much. So, shout out to you, Megan. But first, let's introduce yourself. Who are you? Where do you live? What is your, current dynamic? And then we'll get into your story.
All right. Well, my name is Megan. I live in a small town in eastern Pennsylvania called Shahola. Born and raised in the area. I have two kids, a little girl, 5. My son is 9, and I'm a second grade teacher. This is my 18th year teaching second grade. My husband happens to own a bike shop downtown, an outdoor store, and we are constantly doing everything outside. Avid mountain bikers. At one point in time, I was road cycling for a while. I was in the CrossFit space for a couple of years through my first pregnancy with my son, and then it got kind of challenging to keep up with class times. So I kind of just joined a Planet Fitness and was doing that for a while. COVID happened, and then we started building our home gym, and I've been working out at home ever since 2020. So currently, so I'm 5'6", and I currently weigh right now 146 pounds. So that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah, I love it. So helpful. And yeah, and we'll get into I like to, have them share height and weight just so you guys can get a picture, but obviously that's going to be different for everyone and we'll kind of get into the story of how that will fluctuate for good reasons too. So that was helpful to share because, kind of like you said, you have been active your whole life. You have been training for a while. You've done like lifting heavy, whether it's at CrossFit or, in the global gym or your garage gym. And I knew you were familiar with macros before we get started, but can you tell me like where were you at before joining Create Your Shape? I remember you did one of the challenges,
I did.
and from there you joined kind of like my baseline intro.
Yep.
But kind of tell me where you were before that point and why you were interested in coaching.
So I knew the word macros
Okay.
prior to probably 2023, but I never paid attention to it. I always thought that it was something that seemed um, very time consuming
Mm-hmm.
and hard, and also that it wasn't for a person like me. I felt that it was for somebody that was really, really concerned about looking a certain way. That's what I thought, I guess. And then in 2023, a friend came to me and she said, I made this diet for us. Do you want to do it with me? And I said, sure. And she said, these are the macros that you have to hit. And I kind of took that with a grain of salt. But she had created a meal plan for me. So it was more of me just following the meal plan, not really like sticking to the macro part of it. And a lot of the time I would look at it and I'm like, well, I ate what was on here, but I'm way under the carbs that I'm supposed to have.
Hmm.
And I'm way over the protein and I am really way over the fat. Oh, well, that was just kind of like my everyday with my first introduction to macros. And honestly, this was one of the things that I was kind of thinking about, kind of preparing to talk to you today, was that I was um, eating and then wondering why I wasn't hitting my macros. It just was like, it didn't make any sense to me. Like, this is the food that I ate. Why didn't it work? That is such a silly thing to say out loud, but that's really where I was at that point. And now I obviously I know how to do it now.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we're never taught macros, so
No.
it can feel like this really complicated thing that's only meant for like advanced people or for people to be
Yeah.
obsessive. And kind of to your point, it's like it's only for people who care really so much about what they look like, not knowing that there's such an overlap to our health and to our like physical capabilities and our strength as well. So, as far as your goals for your physique, for your health, for performance, what were your main things that you wanted to accomplish?
So what I really wanted to accomplish was, I knew that I had a lot of muscle, but I also knew that in order to look the way that I wanted, I needed to get rid of the layer of body fat that was on top of it. And I really wanted my arms to look good.
Yeah.
That's what I really, really wanted. Like at the beginning of Create Your Shape, when you show all of the women and the different shapes that are possible, and you think about the shape that you want, I always thought, like, I just want these arms. Like, I want arms that look like very defined, like there's lines and there's curves and there's shadows and things like that. And I really think I've done a good job at achieving it, because I know that I mentioned this in my check-ins probably multiple times week after week, but I really do think that my arms are looking very good.
Yeah. Hell yeah, they
So,
are.
yeah.
I mean, I can
Mhm.
see it even right now.
Yeah.
So this is so good. So, but at the time, what did you think you needed to do in order to achieve that?
Well, so I was kind of all over the place as far as my workouts went. I was doing just anything, but different things every single day.
Hmm.
Like never repeating the same lifts, never repeating the same workouts. Um Almost like a Peloton style. Like, I'm going to jump into this class and then tomorrow I'm going to jump into this class. And like boot camps, and it was just whatever it was, honestly. And um lots of like long cardio that I was doing, not focusing on the lifting part of it, but more of the burning calories with cardio part of it,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. So was your mindset, oh, I need to do more fitness in order to look like I am a fitness person.
Yes, but then on the flip side, it was also really hard because with kids, it's you don't have all of this time. So then it was always like, "Ugh, but I just didn't have enough time for my workout, which is why I'm not seeing any results."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so is there something that if you like went back to that person that that you would be like, ooh, I would never do that again. Like, I know a lot of people, used to be like, oh, I can't have carbs, or oh, I need to do two a days, or that concept, I need to work out more and more and more. I would never do that again. Is there anything that you think back on everything that you were doing and to say like, oh, I'm not going to do that again?
Okay, so when I do think back to that, I was doing these really long ab exercises like 5 days a week. And it like now I know that I don't need to do any extra ab exercises. That
Yeah.
is not what is going to get me abs. Um, but I would do up to like 30 minutes of abs sometimes. And I think back at that and I'm just like, I don't know why I was doing that because nothing was happening from doing that. I wasn't getting abs from my 30-minute ab workouts.
I'm laughing because I did the exact same thing. So I
Yeah.
get it. And it's funny because you're like, wait, I don't have enough time. I need to do 30 minutes of abs every day.
Right, exactly. Yes. And when I was going to the gym, like after my whole like CrossFit career was kind of ending and I did join Planet Fitness and I did find that little bit of time before I went to work. I was doing um it was like light lifting, but I was ending my workout with 40 minutes on either the treadmill or the elliptical machine every single day. And that's another thing where if I could go back, I would not do that now.
Yeah,
Because I know what to prioritize now.
yeah. And this is common because we've never been taught this, right? So when we think, okay, I just need to work out more, or we don't know
Right.
what to emphasize, or okay, macros are too complicated. Let me kind of follow this meal plan, but kind of be unsure. And
Mhm.
so when you heard of Create Your Shape and like, were you afraid of anything about joining? I remember you did the challenge, and then after the challenge, you did baseline, which is my
Right.
short intro offer. And same thing, right? You showed up to every call, you got coach. And to me, it looked like the light bulbs were going off. Where you're like,
Oh yeah.
oh, there's a strategy. Oh, macros are simple. Oh, like every week. Um,
Yeah.
but first, before that, kind of tell me your story with that, and was there anything where you were hesitant or afraid of when considering joining Create Your Shape?
Um, I have to be honest, I was not hesitant. I was not afraid. I was like, I am excited. I didn't even really know anything about you. I had probably just started following you maybe a month prior. And I was just like, oh my gosh, she seems like exactly what I need. And I was just excited. I did not have any hesitation. I wasn't afraid of anything. I was at that point very ready to jump in head first.
That makes me happy to hear because that's exactly what for people like you, right, who are already putting in the effort. And I'm like, oh, it could be so much easier. Like, let me show you. It
Mhm,
makes
mhm.
me so happy that you immediately see that, oh, there's a framework, there's a strategy. Like, yes, let's go.
Yeah.
So that makes me very happy. Once you did join, was there anything that you were surprised about or anything different than what you were expecting?
Um, I think I was just surprised to like learn. very simple strategies that you just, like you said, you're never taught them, but also you never think of this stuff either yourself. So having like a structure of when you're going to eat during the day and sticking to that, like I just feel like every day prior to working with you, it's just like, oh, I'm hungry. That's when I eat.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I think that's what I would say is just I was just surprised that there's so much to it, but it's very simple. It's
Yeah.
very simple.
Yeah, and kind of like you said, like we've never been taught this, right?
Hmm.
So it can feel overwhelming or distant, but it actually is simple despite there's so much online too, and there's short little clips, so it's hard to make sense of everything that's online without having a like and you're a teacher, right? So you get the importance of a curriculum and having, a full
Hmm.
strategy and protocol laid out, but which we just never get. So that's good to share. Now, in terms of some of the main goals in Create Your Shape, it's one, definitely to change body composition. And
Hmm.
I would pair that also with to change performance or health as well. I think most people, I really emphasize looking like you lift weights because that's what drives most people. But then once they get in, they're like, "Oh, I actually do really value my health and vitality. Oh, I actually do feel a lot better when I'm performing better in the gym." So I think all three of those are important. But is there any, like, what are the main things that you've noticed in terms of, physique changes or performance and/or health? I mean, obviously, we can look at your arms, and that is the first thing I noticed, but also in your photos, right? And like I have your dashboard pulled up, so I'm looking through them, and I know you've done 2 rounds, right? And in your first round, I think you really got shredded, right? You decreased a lot of body fat. I mean, even the first couple of weeks, I don't typically see this in the first couple of weeks, where every week I'm like, oh, I'm seeing more like tightness. I'm seeing more fullness in your muscle. I'm seeing this. And then you just every week making progress. And then this last round, you really leaned into the training side of it.
I did.
And I remember too, one of your check-ins, or I don't know if it was in the first round, you were like, I really just don't like training lower body, but
Yes.
building up my lower body is one of my main goals. And so I remember too, we kind of digging into that because generally for people who love to work out like yourself, if there's a reason that you don't like a certain muscle group or certain exercise, there's generally a more fine-tuned reason, right, that we can dig into and figure out. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So let's just start with as far as the results you've seen, physique wise, performance wise, or health wise, what are some of those?
Oh my goodness. Where do I even start? Honestly. So, I mean, as far as like my physique goes, I definitely have lost a significant amount of body fat. And I see it in my pictures. Like I was just last week when you were kind of walking us through our dashboard, I was just sitting there looking at my most recent pictures compared to my very first picture, and there very much is a big difference. When I look in the mirror now, I think these are the arms that you were striving for. Like this area of my arm is like I look in the mirror and I'm like, bravo. Yes. Very good. That is what you wanted.
I
So,
actually have a check-in from you that I remember that you're like, I did it. I did exactly what I set out to do when I signed
yeah.
up.
Yes. Yes. Um, and then kind of like going back to the ab thing as well, when I was saying how, 30 minutes of abs wasn't getting me anything. I'm not doing 30 minutes of abs. In fact, I might be doing 5 minutes of abs total all week long. And the rest of what I'm seeing with my abs, which I'm also very happy with, um, is coming from the lifting that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
and probably
So
mostly the nutrition.
yeah, yes, yes, yes. Well, definitely the nutrition, but also I just feel like stabilizing in all of these different movements is working that area
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, just kind of like all these little parts of my body that I was always working on in the past um, are are looking like I want them to look. Even this morning when I was stretching after my lower body workout, and I think I was in like a 90-90 position and I bent forward. I just happened to like glance at my adductor area in my leg, and there was a divot there that I've never really noticed before. And I was like, look at that. Still like seeing all of these little things happening. So lots of different changes as far as just looking at me physically. Yes, definitely. And then the other thing is that a couple of my biomarkers with my blood work have improved. And that is really awesome. That is really awesome because I have been very aware of mostly eating like whole foods, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, lots of lean meat, things like that. And I think that's made a huge difference with my blood work, honestly.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it all overlaps, and I think sometimes as people who are already like healthy and fit to some degree, we think that oh, we've already got that, taken care of. But
Mhm.
it's surprising when you can again fine tune your like nutrition to be like, oh, actually, I can be even healthier and get into optimal range, which only compounds for years later on.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Hmm.
Awesome. And so the next thing that I really emphasize is education. And I think the one of the main things that we're never taught this. And so I really emphasize that part. So as far as the knowledge, is there anything that you feel like you've gained there that you will either take with you forever or that it's made the biggest difference in this journey?
So just the counting macro piece is in, like incredibly helpful because like I said, that was something where I was like, what, this, it's not for me. And then even when I thought maybe I tried to do it, it wasn't kind of working. But I've really learned that um it's just kind of adjusting portions.
Hmm.
And if you keep food simple, it's very simple to hit your macros.
Yep. And I remember
So,
you at the even going on trips, right? I think you just went on a trip a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about
mhm,
this with the group of how you're hitting macros and adjusting your portions and making it work, even on a trip. And so I think that just to your point is like, oh wow, not only did I go from what are those to I can hit macros easily at home to oh I can hit macros when I'm on a trip, when I'm out and about, and it really is just categories of food and adjusting portions.
right. I also think like there's just been such a huge mindset shift. Like I started working with you in August of 2025, and prior to that, if I would have gone on a trip, I would have been like, I'm on a trip. I'm I'm just going to eat whatever I want because I am on a trip. That's what you do. And now it's definitely like I had gone on the trip that you're speaking of, like in the deficit, but even not in the deficit, there's still that high level of awareness. Like,
Mhm.
it's not you just eat whatever you want. Like, you're still capable of making a great choice no matter where you are, no matter where you go out to dinner. You still have all of the knowledge. You can still create your plate anywhere you eat. Um, so yeah, there's just like a higher level of awareness now.
Yeah, do you think your desires have changed at all too?
Definitely. Definitely. Because now a lot of the time it was, well, we're out to eat, so we definitely have dessert. And now it's just like I look at the dessert menu, and a lot of the times nothing ever seems worth it on the dessert menu.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if there's something I really like, well then I'll go for it. But I like that I can consciously make that decision.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's almost like when you're fully fueled with the right, calories and then macros and create your plate, which is one of the main tools I teach, right? But it's creating that
Mhm.
balanced meal so that way you feel
Yeah,
fueled and satisfied. When you have all these things in line, you don't have the cravings as much, or you're also much more aware of how these different foods impact you and make you feel, and then you're so much more aware of how they can change your shape, right, and influence your
for
shape. So
sure.
all of that influences your decision too.
Yes. And I always like at school, every teacher has like a chocolate drawer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always like, very much, I need a chocolate after lunch. I need a chocolate after lunch. But I just switched it to a piece of gum. Now I just have a piece of gum after lunch. And I have all kinds of gum. I have fruit gum and tropical gum and mint gum and like, so I just go to my gum drawer and I choose what flavor gum I want.
Oh, that is so smart. I didn't even know about that. Yeah, that's so smart. And I feel like this is a perfect example of identifying, like, what is it that I actually want, and
Mhm.
is it the chocolate, or is it the dessert, or is it just like, wait a minute, is it something else? Like, is it I'm just creating a treat or something of pleasure, and I can get that from a different thing. What else can I get that from to create that joy, and like swapping it out without making myself feel deprived of something?
Right.
So good.
And like even going back to the whole going to a restaurant and ordering dessert. I gave that a lot of thought, and I realized that a lot of the time when I go out to eat and at the end of the meal, I'm full. I'm full. I don't really need dessert, but it was the fact that we're out. We're out to dinner. So that's just like the pattern. Like, you go out to dinner, you get an appetizer, you have a meal, and then naturally you would have dessert. And yeah, I just kind of like thought about that. Like, that's just how it's been. So, but it's very easy to just be like, no, I'm actually really full after my dinner. I don't really need that. But it's just what we did before.
Yeah, the habits, like you were saying.
Yep.
So speaking
Hmm.
of habits, one of the things that we really emphasize, I'd say the third goal in Create Your Shape, is creating your nutrition routine that runs on autopilot. And so, do you have any examples of maybe something that you've shifted to create this routine that feels more systemized? So again, it's looking at those habits and either adjusting them or creating a habit. So that way nutrition just feels like, oh, this is just something I do. It's just how I operate it. And it's like systemized versus something else on your to-do list.
So I definitely think that meal planning has helped with this for sure. And I know that I've said this a couple of times on the call, like as a little piece of advice to some of the other ladies, is that um, the more complicated that you make food, the harder it is to kind of stay on track and hit your targets. But the more simple that you make it, um, it's so much easier to adjust your carbs or adjust your protein. So I think that meal planning, definitely, like sitting down on the weekend and kind of planning out what you're going to eat for the rest of the week is huge, huge. Um, and then really just kind of keeping it as simple as you can. Um, and we learn about all of the different kinds of like lean meats and fish and things like that, which that is another thing that you're just kind of like never taught is, how many calories are in like a gram of fat, like things like that, and portion size and all these little things that you are not taught about food that just go such a long way after you gain that knowledge. Because yeah, I mean, it just becomes so much easier.
Yes. Oh, I love this because you're so right, and I love that you've just experienced this too. So your freshness can explain it so well. But you're right, it really is simplifying things, but having the knowledge to be able to do that and
Mhm.
then implement it into your week after week, and it not feeling like hard or complicated. I know I have had someone before who they were really into their health and making healthy food, but every night was like a 30 ingredient recipe for their
Yeah.
whole family. And I coached her through it a lot and then ended up, I was like, let's just try simplifying it. And when she did, it even went way beyond like her shape and her goals. And she was like, oh my gosh, I just got, an hour back in my day every
Yeah.
single day. And I'm never going
Mhm.
back to that. So yeah, I
Yes.
think, I think you're right. That's definitely a thing. And then one other thing I wanted to add on that is new this year, but you have experienced is the Create Your Shape training program. And
Yes.
so I remember a check-in from you, and even bef even before, kind of like we mentioned, like first we really emphasized nutrition, and then we also focused more on training. But you're like, oh, my workouts are feeling stronger, like I'm increasing my weight, I'm increasing my reps. And it could have been a combination of like understanding now how to progressive overload and what that looks like every single week. You've also
Mhm.
submitted videos for review. So what we've been able to like actually look, oh, actually move your shoulder this way, move your leg this way, move the foot this way. You're on the Create Your Shape training program. So it's all laid out for you specifically for the shape that you're wanting to build. But kind of talk to me a little bit about that in terms of getting on the Create Your Shape training program or just the education and learning that we cover around training.
Yeah, so in the first round, throughout the first round, I didn't have anything solidified. I was still kind of changing different movements. And then I also had like a back injury. So that kind of prohibited me from um, doing a lot of lower body stuff. So when you had put this into place, I was like, oh, thank God, because now I actually have something to follow. And I love that it has the 3 tiers. Like you can work out at home, you can work out in a regular gym, you can work out in a garage gym. There's something for everybody in this training program. And I right now am incorporating all 3 of those steps, which is so nice. Um, so yeah, I just love that everything is laid out for you. Like there's an upper body A day and then a lower body A day and then upper body B and lower body B. And it's just cut and dry. It's all of the muscles that you're targeting, all of the muscles that I want to build up to create a better shape. And um It's just so easy. I love that you attached videos to them. So if I'm ever like, am I doing this right? I can literally click on the link for the video and see it. And then also know what specific muscle that I'm supposed to be working on so that, we talk a lot about mind muscle connection too, so that I know that I'm using that particular muscle when I'm doing the lift. So, I mean, it is the whole package. The Create Your Shape training program is the whole package. You get everything that you need,
Yeah,
definitely. And your support, obviously, you created it. So it's, yeah,
yeah, I remember one of your videos, which I did CrossFit too, and I love CrossFit. And I remember what I was reviewing one of your videos, but you called this out too because you're like with as we go over different things, you start to become aware, and you're like, wait a minute, am I doing this more of a CrossFit style way, which is not going to like or a more like hypertrophy way, meaning am I
right.
doing this for performance or am I doing this to grow muscle? And you were like, I want to
Mhm.
grow muscle. How do I need to adjust this? And so even little things like that, which you're
Yeah,
now at the level, right? It's almost like things are layered where all right, are you on a training program that aligns to the goals that you have? And then from there, do you have the nutrition in place that actually grow the muscle or to decrease the body fat to show off the muscle you've built? Okay, then from there, are you like nutrient timing before and after your workouts? All right, then executing the exercise. Are you actually targeting the intended muscle, which even if you have good form, you could not be with that mind muscle connection to the intended muscle, right? And then from
mhm,
there, it's like, all right, your videos that you submitted, it's like you had great form, but now we're fine tuning for like, okay, well, we don't want to focus on performance, we're focused on hypertrophy. So just continuing to like fine tune each layer
yeah,
to keep in improving. And I also think that's why like I know at one point too you're like, oh, with the back injury or just not having enjoyment of training legs and
yeah,
going in and like, okay, generally there's a reason why, and it could be I don't feel stable, I feel like I'm going to hurt myself, I'm not feeling that connection to the muscle. And I'm
mhm,
curious now because you're obviously doing 2 leg days a week and I see you're progressing on them.
yes,
And I think it might have been you or other people, or maybe just a general discussion where I've seen some people doing exercise and they're like, "Well, I'm afraid I'm gonna hurt myself," and I'm like, "You actually don't need to be squatting to. It may not even be the most effective way to focus on quads or glutes. We should probably do something else." And so it even could be thinking we need to do an exercise that we don't need to be doing. So I'm
right.
curious now with training legs, how do you feel about training legs?
I do not mind the lower body days at all. In fact, I did lower body this morning and I had such a good workout. And I don't know what it is, but I think like when I started the training program in January, um, I guess I didn't like put a lot of pressure on myself. I think in the first round when I was kind of on my own, like with my training, I
And
just
I'll
kept
add
thinking,
on just really quick that
yeah,
I emphasize that and saying, hey, let's focus on nutrition first because you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck with just
right.
nutrition. And then when
Hmm.
we go over, I think it's week 3, we go over training optimization. I give people options, and one of the options is just focus on nutrition, and then we'll tackle training later. And
Yeah.
so, just for everybody listening, I want to frame this as like that's the smart way to do it is to
Hmm.
tackle the nutrition first, and then when you have the capacity to add on training and when you're ready to fine tune training, then do that with your training. So anyway, keep going. I just wanted to emphasize that.
No, that's actually that's fantastic and it's so true because um I had like had that back injury right around the time that the deficit had started.
Mhm.
And prior to that, I think my mindset was I need to lift as heavy as possible. And I've had a prior back injury, but here I was like deadlifting as heavy as I possibly could. And that's how I ended up hurting myself. So now going back to what you just said, in the deficit, you are always like, we are concentrating on the deficit. Your workouts are, you're continuing with your workouts. They may not feel as strong, but you were kind of encouraging me, like, focus on the deficit.
Hmm.
And I was saying, I'm just having fun with my workouts right now. Those were the words that I was using. I'm just having fun. And you were like, great, awesome. That's totally fine. Just focus on the deficit. And because there wasn't that pressure with the training, I guess, I had an incredibly successful deficit my first
Hmm.
round.
Hmm.
And now, when I started the Create Your Shape training program in January, I just thought, I'm not going to go into this like lifting as heavy as I possibly can right away. I'm going to get used to these movements. And every single week, I'm going to either increase in weight or I'm going to increase in reps. And that's exactly what I have been doing. And it has been it has been a game changer because I never go into a workout like, oh, I do not want to do that today. And I just go downstairs and I just start slow. That's it. And that's what I did today. And it was just feeling so good. And again, I ended up with more weight on my bar today and just still, like making progress still.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you shared this because I think it also goes, it's similar to the story with macros, right? Like, oh, macros are so complicated. Or oh my gosh, it's like 0 to you have to lift so heavy and hurt
Yes.
yourself and you've got to do these certain movements when really I remember us coaching through like, oh, actually here's a week by week strategy of how you want to
Mhm.
like ease into this program because
Mhm.
yeah, you lift heavy, right? You lift really heavy and we all lift really heavy. But before you do that, it's wait, am I on the right training program? Am I doing the exercises that align with the shape I want to build that aren't, just for lifting heavy? Like deadlifts, we don't do deadlifts in the program because they're not necessary for growth and the risk is so much higher.
Mhm.
And then from there, it's like, yeah, you need to be able to have that mind muscle connection. You need to know what muscle you're working first before we go super heavy. So exactly what you said of like going in slow, it's such a good reminder to do all of and have all of that in place first because then you're going to get so much more out of lifting heavy when you do
Right.
lift heavy. Yeah, that's
Yes.
really helpful to explain and walk through. And there's one other thing that you made me think of on that, but I'll let you know if I remember it. But
Okay.
going into kind of our final topics, so I'm wondering, has there anything that's impacted your like day to day or your family, your activities, how you think about yourself, how you dress, like anything outside of just the like fitness and nutrition, like typical things that you think of that has impacted your kind of life or lifestyle?
So I think as far as like food goes, I think I'm just being like way more mindful now that I have a little bit more knowledge of food in general, I guess. Like going to the grocery store, I'm always looking at the food labels and
Yes.
reading, like the nutrition label before I even buy stuff. And a lot of the things that I used to buy or I would have picked up or wanted to pick up, I'm just not because either it's really not good, or I just like, especially in the deficit, can't find a way to, fit it in my macros. Um, but even just being more mindful of movement, like moving more during the day, I get a lot of steps in, like being with my job, like being a teacher, I get a lot of steps in, but just trying to be mindful of moving more. getting outside when the kids get outside, just things like that. Um, yeah,
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 I love that. And I know you said like you went mountain biking with your family this
hmm,
weekend. And
yes,
so I think that's just so cool that they see you as a like fit and healthy, like well-fueled mom who
definitely,
not only takes care of herself, and I think I think it is important that it shows physically because they can see that, right? They can see mom's strong. Mom has arm definition, right? Because she's got muscle. I see mom going down
hmm,
to the garage and she lifts heavy and intentionally, right? And then she can go mountain biking with us, where there's a lot of parents who can't do that with their kids, right? So
definitely,
I think that's so important in that you show them like, oh wow, mom eats a lot, right? I know like when we're not in the deficit, right? You're like 2,000 plus calories, right? Mom like
yes,
creates her plate. And so I think
hmm,
it's so cool that you are such an example to your family, but I'm guessing too your kids at your students, right, see that too. And so I think it's just amazing that there's this ripple effect all because you decided, oh no, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna figure it out, and then you just did it, right? You just made it
yeah.
happen, and now you're just a walking example to so much of the younger generation. And then I'm sure also peers, friends, family members, right? That you might not even notice. So just want to say like kudos to you for that, but and it may not even be something that you even realized.
Well, that actually just made me think of something because so we kind of implemented a new program this year at school called The Leader in Me. Kind of the premise behind it is to teach the kids that, anybody can be a leader. And, we talk a lot about what makes a leader. But one of the parts of the program is actually goal setting and things that are important to them. And I talk so much about because I give them real life examples, obviously, so they can relate to me. So they know that I get up every single morning at 5:30. They know that I work with you. I talk about you. They know what it looks like to set a goal and then what you need to do every day in order to reach the goal that you set. And then they are obviously like one of the things that I'm working on with them is having my students set their own goal. And then what steps do you need to put in place to reach that goal? And how are we going to measure? What we're doing. You have to have like a scoreboard so that you can go back and look and see your progress and things like that. So yeah, I mean, even they know we talk about nutrition and the importance of exercise and all that. They know my goals. So yeah, I mean, that is definitely something that is kind of like trickling even out of my house and into my job now too.
That
So,
is
yeah.
so cool. That is so cool because I mean, I don't remember having anything like that growing up. So that would have been so cool to see and have you
Mhm,
like as an example of actually doing all of those things. And
mhm.
I mean, honestly, even a lot of the adults that I work with don't realize the importance of like start dates. When are you finishing this
Right.
goal? What's the tracking? How are we tracking this, right? And that's the
Yeah.
importance of like the dashboards that we have.
Right. Yep.
So to your point, that's so cool. Okay. Last question. How
Sure.
do you see this impacting you long term? I know, for example, I have some people who I worked with, 5 years ago, and they're like, Jenny, I still create my plate every day.
Yes. Yes. That's what I was going to say. I think that probably the number one thing is creating your plate is so easy. You can do it anywhere, anytime. Um, that is the number one thing. I will never not create my plate. And then also, I mean, will I count macros forever? maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. But now at least I have the knowledge to do it if I choose to do it. Um, and I also understand that, one of the things that I was doing prior to working with you was not eating enough carbs,
Hmm.
because that's one of the things that, you hear all the time is like, oh, carbs are so bad. But it's so nice eating carbs. And I have realized how important they are for my workout.
Yeah, at one
Like,
point we got up to 300 grams of carbs with her, you
yes.
guys.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. It was like heaven eating that many carbs. But really, like, I would never go back to not eating, like, eating enough. I would never not go. I would never. Yeah, I mean, eating enough is so important. So, yeah, that as well, like making sure that I am fueled,
Hmm.
for my workouts, for teaching my class, for playing with my kids, for every day. Um, yeah, I have such a greater knowledge about the science of food now and how that all works, and um huge, but like knowledge of the scale, how
Mm.
to read the scale. Thank goodness for that part of Create Your Shape, because that is another thing that nobody knows about. All of the fluctuations, all of the things that happen inside of you every single day that make that number go up and down. And so many women out there like step on the scale every day and they beat themselves up for the number that they see, and then they're like so happy 2 days later when it's like down a couple of pounds. And you know um and this just happened to me this past week. I did not have the greatest week this week as far as like food goes. And thankfully, I know that carbs like increase the amount of water. Is
Yep.
that correct? The
Yep.
amount of water in your body. And I had a couple of unexpected situations this week where I ended up eating some pasta. And
Hmm.
then the next day, there it was. It shows up on the scale. And a lot of the time, like, I know that now. I'm like, oh, there's my pasta. I see it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, um, or, in another time, that would have just been like so devastating. But now I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the pasta that I ate last night. It's
Yeah.
totally fine.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's just the water molecules attaching to
Yeah,
my pasta grams, and the scale went up
exactly.
X percent, and yeah, and that will go down in a couple days, no big deal. It's
Right.
yeah, the knowledge really does like just calm you. And just so we're clear,
Yeah,
everyone, you can have pasta, right?
totally.
We're in a deficit, so the scenarios are different and the carb
Yes,
intake
yes,
is different.
yes.
So there's
Right.
more context, but I mean, this is a perfect example.
Hmm.
And then to kind of wrap it up, I realized we didn't really talk numbers much, so I'm just going to give a quick overview, just
Yeah.
case study wise. And so we kind of mentioned she worked up to 300 grams of carbs, right? So that you
Mhm.
can fit plenty of pasta in that,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
in 2,300 calories, which is
Hmm.
so good. And this is when you're like, oh, I'm getting stronger. Oh, my shape is improving, right? Just from eating more. And so then from there, you went into a deficit. And I think
Hmm.
right now, I know you're also in a deficit, and it's between 1,800 and 1,900 calories in
Hmm.
a deficit, right? So I just want to like emphasize to everyone is like that's the beauty of eating enough and having a strategy because then you can go into a deficit. And I know the first round, you were recomping, meaning you were changing your body composition, but you decreased 15 pounds, right?
Yes.
And then the second round,
Yes.
we focus on, okay, let's build muscle, which will obviously increase the scale, which is a good thing. And now
Yeah.
we're in a deficit again. So we're in the
Mhm.
middle of that now. And I know the other week I I called you out on this because your check-in said something to the effect of, "Oh, I'm doing the deficit and it just works."
Yeah, the deficit is working like it should.
Yes,
That's what
that's
I
what it
said.
was. So
Hmm.
good. The deficit is working
Yeah.
like it should. And it's like such
Yeah.
a, to your point of like, it's just the confidence you have with the scale, with the like, oh yeah, this week I made X amount of progress because I know, or this week was a non-progress week, but that's okay because I know exactly what to do. And it was, it was
Yes.
it's fine with that if that happens. And there's no like panic. And it just is like that calm, cool, collected. And that is how you create the shape that you have and sustain it long term because you know how to
Yeah.
handle all these scenarios. So really nice job on everything. I'm so proud of what you've accomplished and just your
Thank you.
attitude of how you showed up to every single aspect. And is there anything else that we missed or anything else that you want to share?
Um, hmm. I don't think so. One of the like questions, one of the reasons why I started working with Jenny was because I realized that I was being a garbage can for my kids. And I hear this from so many parents is that they're just eating their leftover kids' food, like what's left on their plate, or they're eating their own meal and then eating what their kids don't eat. And that was me. I was literally eating my daughter's peanut butter and jelly sandwich that was left over from preschool. And I really had to step back and be like, okay, wait, there's like 3 bites left, which means her hands were all over that. And she goes to preschool. Seriously, is that really what you want to be eating? And that was when I did Build Your Baseline with you.
Hmm.
And you were like, instead of doing that, what could you eat in the afternoon? Because that's when it was happening when I got home from work.
Hmm.
And we kind of like implemented like a yogurt bowl, and I was doing like a peanut butter and jelly yogurt bowl because for some reason that peanut butter and jelly really appealed to me.
Hmm.
Um so I just made like that switch, like everything in the lunchbox went in the garbage and I ate a peanut butter and jelly yogurt bowl.
A germ-free one.
And yeah, yes, like like Build Your Baseline kind of really helped me kind of realize like I am not the garbage can. I am not the garbage can. I don't want to be the garbage can. Like I don't want to waste this food, but at the same time, like what am I really getting from 3 bites of a leftover peanut butter and jelly and like some other stuff?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to add that for all of the women out there who might be eating their kids' leftover half-bitten grapes and, cracker crumbs and things like that. Like you don't have to do that.
Oh, so good. I am not the garbage can. Yeah, it's like a self-respect thing of like, what am I putting in my
Hmm.
body? And I love how
Right.
you framed it as like I I can just create that for myself. And I remember coaching on that instead
Yeah.
of being like, well, instead of feeling like you have to restrict, why don't we just make it even better that you actually want
Right.
and
Yeah.
enjoy?
Hmm.
So I'm so glad you brought that up because that is a perfect example. And I know so many people listening are gonna like relate to that and it's gonna be helpful for them.
Hmm.
So thank
Good.
you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah.
This has been super helpful.
Good.
And everybody else, I will see you next week on the Create Your Shape podcast. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Jenny.